Ever wondered what's holding you back from reaching your true potential? Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest emperors in history, taught us that it is often what we leave behind that defines our path to a fulfilling life. In this video, together we'll discover 11 things you should quietly start eliminating from your life. From unnecessary worries to energy-sapping habits, I'll guide you through a series of insights and tips that will transform your approach to life and your daily interactions. These 11 principles are not only rooted in the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, but have been adapted to resonate with the challenges and realities of our modern lives. Get ready to embark on a journey that will open your eyes to the intricacies of Stoic living and equip you with practical strategies to free yourself from unnecessary burdens. Let's discover how simplicity and clarity can take your life to a whole new level of serenity and contentment. Unnecessary goals. The first aspect we should consider quietly eliminating from our lives, according to the principles of Stoicism, are unnecessary goals. These are goals that do not align with our core values or what is truly important in our lives. We often set goals under the influence of external factors, such as societal expectations, pressure from our social circles, or even as a way to compete with others. However, these goals can distract us from our true purpose and consume valuable resources such as time, energy, and attention without bringing real satisfaction or fulfillment. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of living in harmony with nature, and this includes following a path that is truly in harmony with our inner values and personal aspirations. Goals such as achieving a certain social status, accumulating excessive wealth, or pursuing achievements that do not resonate with our authentic selves often prove to be empty distractions. These goals may seem important on the surface, but in the long run they can lead to feelings of emptiness and disconnection from ourselves. To identify and eliminate unnecessary goals, we must first reflect deeply on what we truly value and what we want to achieve in our lives. This requires a process of self-exploration and honesty in which we ask ourselves fundamental questions such as, why am I pursuing this goal? Is it something I really want, or am I trying to meet someone else's expectations? How does this goal align with my personal values? Once we identify these unnecessary goals, the next step is to have the courage to let them go. This is not always easy, especially if these goals are deeply rooted in our identity or if they involve expectations of others. However, letting go of these goals frees us to pursue what really matters and allows us to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. By eliminating unnecessary goals from our lives, we not only make room for what really matters, but we also practice a key aspect of Stoicism, living in accordance with our true nature and focusing on what we can actually control and change. In this way, we can find greater inner peace, clarity, and satisfaction in our journey through life. Seeking external validation. The search for external validation is another area that, according to the principles of Stoicism, we can consider eliminating from our lives in order to achieve greater serenity and authenticity. This search manifests itself when we depend on the approval, recognition, or admiration of others in order to feel valuable or satisfied. While it is natural to desire acceptance and recognition, an over-reliance on external validation can lead us down a path of dissatisfaction and a life that is not truly our own. At the heart of Stoicism is the idea that our source of happiness and worth must come from within. Stoics believe in emotional self-sufficiency and the power of relying on our own judgment and principles to determine our worth. Constantly seeking external approval puts us at the mercy of the fluctuating opinions of others and distances us from our authenticity. The result can be a life in which our decisions and actions are influenced more by how we want to be perceived than by our true desires and values. This behavior can manifest itself in various aspects of our lives, such as at work, where we may be constantly seeking approval from our bosses or colleagues, or in our personal relationships, where we may be overly concerned with pleasing others. On social networking sites, it can be seen in the need to get likes and comments as a form of social validation. To overcome this dependence on external validation, it is important to begin a process of self-reflection and self-esteem building. This involves recognizing and appreciating our intrinsic worth, regardless of external approval. We can begin by asking ourselves, am I doing this because I really want to or because I am seeking someone else's approval? How would I feel if no one knew about this accomplishment? In addition, it is helpful to focus on developing and following our own standards and values. Instead of measuring our success by the reaction of others, we can define what success and satisfaction mean to us personally. This might mean celebrating our personal accomplishments, even if they are not externally recognized, and trusting our own decisions and judgments. Reducing our dependence on external validation leads to a more authentic and self-directed life. It frees us from the burden of constantly trying to impress or please others and allows us to live according to our own values and desires. Ultimately, this approach helps us develop true self-confidence and an inner peace that cannot be shaken by external opinions or judgments. Perfectionism. The third thing we might consider eliminating from our lives, in line with Stoic thinking, is perfectionism. This tendency to strive for perfection in everything we do may seem like a noble and high-quality pursuit. However, perfectionism often leads to a number of negative consequences, such as anxiety, procrastination, and a perpetual sense of dissatisfaction. The Stoics teach the importance of focusing on what we can control and accepting what we cannot. Perfectionism, at its core, is a struggle against the uncontrollable. Trying to achieve perfection in every aspect of our lives is a losing battle in advance, because absolute perfection is in many cases an unattainable ideal. This constant striving for an impossible standard can wear us down emotionally and distract us from our true priorities. At work, for example, perfectionism can manifest itself in spending unnecessary hours on minor details, which can lead to delays and excessive personal stress. In our personal relationships, perfectionism can lead us to be overly critical of ourselves and others, preventing the formation of genuine and compassionate connections. To begin to free ourselves from perfectionism, we can practice accepting imperfection as a natural and valuable part of the human experience. This includes recognizing and celebrating our efforts and accomplishments, even when they are not perfect by our most exacting standards. It also means learning to be more compassionate with ourselves and others, recognizing that mistakes and failures are opportunities for learning and growth. A useful tool in this process is to set realistic goals and periodically evaluate our personal and professional standards. By adjusting our expectations to something more attainable and realistic, we can reduce the pressure we put on ourselves and find greater satisfaction in our daily activities. By letting go of perfectionism, we open the door to greater serenity, efficiency, and emotional well-being. We allow ourselves to live a more balanced life where progress and effort are valued over the impossible pursuit of perfection. Ultimately, by accepting and embracing imperfection, we align ourselves more closely with the Stoic principles of living in harmony with our nature and finding satisfaction in what is within our control. Explaining ourselves to those who cause us pain. The fourth practice we might eliminate in our quest for a more Stoic life is the constant effort to explain ourselves to those who cause us pain. Often, in an attempt to be understood or to restore harmony, we find ourselves in repetitive cycles of explaining and justifying ourselves to people who, either out of indifference or their own perspective, cause emotional pain or misunderstanding in our lives. Far from resolving the situation, this pattern can perpetuate the discomfort and drain our emotional energy. The Stoic perspective emphasizes the importance of recognizing what is under our control and what is not. In this case, we cannot control how others interpret our actions or words, nor can we force anyone to understand or change us. Insisting on constantly explaining ourselves to people who are unwilling to understand or who continue to cause us pain can become a futile and exhausting exercise. For example, in relationships where there has been conflict or misunderstanding, we may feel the need to continually clarify our intentions or behaviors. However, if the other person is determined to misunderstand us, or if there is an unwillingness for mutual understanding, these explanations may not lead to an effective resolution. Instead of promoting understanding, this dynamic can trap us in a cycle of frustration and resentment. To break this cycle, it is helpful to adopt a Stoic attitude of detachment and focus on what we can control, which in this case would be our own actions and reactions. This includes recognizing that despite our best intentions, it is not always possible to reach a common understanding, and it is okay to stop trying if it becomes a source of constant pain. Practicing self-compassion and self-care is critical in this process. We can devote time and energy to cultivating our own strengths, working on our self-esteem, and seeking support in healthier, more reciprocal relationships and environments. In doing so, we begin to free ourselves from the need for approval or understanding from those who cause us pain, and we find greater peace and emotional stability. Ultimately, letting go of the need to explain ourselves to those who cause us pain allows us to redirect our energy toward our own growth and well-being. By accepting that we cannot always change the perceptions or behaviors of others, and by focusing on what we can control, we align ourselves more closely with the Stoic principles of living according to our own nature and seeking inner peace despite external circumstances. If this video has brought you something new, if it has made you think or feel differently, please help us continue to grow by subscribing, liking and commenting. This will help us continue to grow and produce more quality content for the benefit of all. Maintaining unrealistic expectations. The fifth aspect that we can consider eliminating from our lives by aligning ourselves with the principles of Stoicism is the tendency to maintain unrealistic expectations. This habit not only sets us up for disappointment and dissatisfaction, but can also distort our perception of reality, leading us to live in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction and imbalance. Unrealistic expectations can manifest in many areas of our lives. We may expect perfection from ourselves and others, believe that we can control all the variables in our lives, or assume that certain events must unfold exactly as we have planned. This kind of thinking is counterproductive and runs counter to the Stoic teaching of focusing on what we can control and accepting the unpredictable nature of life. For example, in personal relationships, expecting others to always act according to our wishes or standards can lead to constant conflict and disappointment. In our professional lives, expecting uninterrupted success or for every project to go smoothly is a recipe for frustration and burnout. These unrealistic expectations set us up to be perpetually dissatisfied with reality as it is. To address this habit, we can begin by reevaluating and adjusting our expectations. This involves a process of self-reflection in which we honestly consider whether our expectations are reasonable and attainable. We can ask ourselves, am I expecting something that is out of my control? Are my expectations based on reality or on an unattainable ideal? It is also important to practice flexibility and adaptability. Instead of rigidly holding on to how we think things should be, we can learn to flow with circumstances and adapt to unexpected changes. This attitude allows us to respond more effectively to challenges and take advantage of opportunities, even when they do not match our original expectations. By adjusting our expectations and accepting the unpredictable nature of life, we not only avoid unnecessary disappointment, but also open the door to greater inner peace and satisfaction. We align ourselves more closely with the Stoic principles of living in harmony with reality and finding satisfaction in our ability to adapt and respond to life as it presents itself. Being a gossipy person. The sixth practice we might consider eliminating according to Stoic philosophy is the tendency to gossip or to engage in gossip. Often, gossip may seem like a harmless way to interact socially, but in reality it can have negative consequences for both ourselves and those around us. Gossip promotes negativity, creates division, and can damage relationships, as well as lead us away from the pursuit of truth and authenticity. Stoicism values the virtue of temperance, which includes controlling our words and avoiding conversations that do not add value or may cause harm. By engaging in gossip, we deviate from this ideal, compromising our integrity and contributing to the spread of potentially false or malicious information. In addition, gossip often reflects and reinforces our own insecurities and biases, and can divert us from a path of personal growth and mutual understanding. Engaging in gossip can also affect our reputation and the trust others place in us. If we are known to talk about others behind their backs, others are likely to question our trustworthiness and sincerity. This reputation can be difficult to reverse and can lead to social isolation or superficial relationships based on mistrust. To avoid falling into the habit of gossiping, we can start by being more mindful of our conversations and the topics we choose to discuss. When we find ourselves in situations where gossip is prevalent, we can choose to change the subject or excuse ourselves from the conversation. It is also helpful to reflect on why we are tempted to gossip. Are we seeking social approval? Are we trying to divert attention from our own lives or problems? Another effective way to avoid gossip is to practice empathy and respect for others. This involves considering how we would feel if we were the subject of gossip, and treating others with the same consideration and respect we want for ourselves. By refraining from gossip, we align ourselves with the Stoic principles of living a virtuous and authentic life. We cultivate more meaningful and healthier relationships and foster an environment of trust and mutual respect. In doing so, we not only improve our own lives, but also make a positive contribution to the communities and environments in which we operate. Oversharing. The seventh habit we might consider eliminating, in keeping with Stoic philosophy, is the tendency to overshare personal information or intimate details of our lives. In the age of social media and digital communication, it can often seem normal or even desirable to share aspects of our personal lives extensively. However, this practice can lead to a number of problems, including loss of privacy, creation of a distorted public image, and exposure to unnecessary judgment and criticism. From a Stoic perspective, discretion and a focus on inner growth and development are valued. Stoics believe that peace and contentment come from living a life in harmony with nature and reason, rather than from seeking external approval or attention. By oversharing, we risk seeking external validation of our sense of worth or identity, which can be a path to dissatisfaction and dependence on the opinions of others. For example, by constantly sharing details of our personal lives on social media, we can become trapped in a cycle of seeking likes and comments to feel validated. This search for validation can become a source of anxiety and distort our perceptions of ourselves and our relationships. In addition, by sharing intimate information, we expose ourselves to the possibility of being misunderstood or judged, which can affect our personal relationships and peace of mind. To avoid the tendency to overshare, we can begin by reflecting on our motivations for sharing information. Are we looking for approval, attention, or validation? Are we sharing for genuine reasons or to create a certain image of ourselves? By becoming more aware of our motivations, we can make more conscious and thoughtful decisions about what we share. It is also helpful to set clear boundaries about what we are willing to share and with whom. This includes being selective about the platforms we participate in and the type of information we share. In doing so, we not only protect our privacy, but also maintain a sense of dignity and respect for ourselves and others. By limiting what we share, we align ourselves with the Stoic principles of authenticity, self-mastery, and a focus on personal growth. This practice helps us build a more centered life that is less dependent on external validation, leading to greater serenity and personal satisfaction. Raise your voice to others. The eighth behavior we might consider eliminating according to the precepts of Stoicism is the tendency to raise one's voice in discussions or interactions with others. While this habit is often an automatic emotional response to situations of stress or conflict, it is rarely productive and usually does not contribute to effective problem solving. Moreover, raising one's voice can damage our relationships, diminish mutual respect, and exacerbate rather than resolve conflict. Stoics promote the practice of moderation and self-control, even in challenging situations. The idea is that by managing our reactions and emotions, we can approach conflict more rationally and constructively. When we raise our voices, we often lose this ability to respond rationally and give way to impulsive emotional responses that can cloud our judgment and aggravate disagreements. For example, in an argument with a coworker or loved one, raising our voice can quickly turn a minor disagreement into a major confrontation. Instead of addressing the underlying issue, the discussion can turn to how the parties communicate, which can lead to additional resentment and misunderstanding. To avoid raising our voices, we can practice stress management and effective communication techniques. These include pausing during discussions to breathe and reflect, expressing our feelings and views calmly and clearly, and actively listening to the other party. It is also helpful to acknowledge and accept our emotions without letting them dictate our actions. Another strategy is to reflect on the underlying reasons why we tend to raise our voice. Is it a response to feeling threatened, frustrated, or unheard? By understanding our own emotions and reactions, we can work to address the root causes of our tendency to react in this way. Practicing calm and assertive communication, rather than raising our voices, not only aligns us with the Stoic principles of self-control and rationality, but also helps to build and maintain healthier, more respectful relationships. By remaining calm in tense situations, we can address conflict more effectively and foster an atmosphere of mutual understanding and respect. Spreading negative opinions about others. The ninth behavior that would be beneficial to eliminate according to Stoic principles is the tendency to spread negative opinions about others. This practice not only fuels an atmosphere of negativity and judgment, but can also damage relationships, erode trust, and lead to misunderstandings and unnecessary conflict. Stoics espouse the virtue of justice, which includes treating others with respect and fairness, and avoiding doing harm through our words and actions. When we speak negatively about others, especially in their absence, we are not only disrespecting them, but also acting against our own moral values. This type of behavior often reflects our own insecurities, prejudices, or frustrations more than the people we are talking about. For example, in a work environment, spreading negative opinions about a colleague can create a climate of distrust and toxic competition rather than fostering collaboration and mutual respect. On a personal level, this behavior can lead to the creation of factions and the deterioration of friendships and family relationships. To avoid spreading negative opinions, we can start by practicing empathy and trying to understand others' circumstances or perspectives before judging or talking about them. It is also helpful to reflect on our own motivations. Why do we feel the need to speak negatively about someone? What are we trying to accomplish? Another effective strategy is to focus on talking about ideas and situations rather than people. This involves shifting the conversation to constructive topics or looking for solutions to problems rather than focusing on the flaws or mistakes of others. By ceasing to spread negative opinions about others, we not only align ourselves with the Stoic principles of fairness and respect, but we also help create a more positive and healthy environment around us. This behavior reflects an emotional maturity and strength of character that allows us to build stronger, more meaningful relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Constantly comparing yourself to others. The 10th practice we might consider eliminating, in line with Stoic philosophy, is the tendency to constantly compare ourselves to others. This constant comparison can be a significant source of dissatisfaction and distress, as it often leads to feelings of inferiority or envy, and distracts us from our own personal growth and progress. The Stoics teach us the importance of focusing on our own path and progress, recognizing that each person has his or her own unique set of challenges and circumstances. When we compare ourselves to others, we often evaluate our lives based on irrelevant or superficial criteria. These comparisons may focus on material achievements, social status, physical appearance, or perceived successes, but rarely reflect a complete understanding of the other person's life or happiness. In the workplace, for example, constantly comparing oneself to colleagues can lead to unhealthy competition or feelings of inadequacy. On a personal level, social networks often exacerbate this tendency, as people often present only the most positive aspects of their lives, which can create a distorted perception of reality. To overcome the tendency to compare ourselves to others, we can begin by recognizing and valuing our own achievements and strengths, regardless of how they compare to those of others. This includes setting and working toward our own goals and definitions of success based on what is important and meaningful to us as individuals. It is also helpful to practice gratitude for what we have and for our own unique experiences and journeys. Gratitude helps us focus on the positive in our lives and reduce the focus on what others have or do. By ceasing to constantly compare ourselves to others, we not only follow a key tenet of Stoicism, but we also release a significant amount of emotional and mental energy that can be redirected toward our own growth and well-being. This approach leads to greater satisfaction and inner peace as we focus on living our lives in the most authentic and meaningful way possible. Mindless use of social networks. The 11th and final practice we might consider eliminating, following Stoic philosophy, is the mindless use of social networking. We often find ourselves passively scrolling through these platforms, consuming content indiscriminately and without a clear purpose. This habit not only consumes our time and attention, but can also negatively affect our mental and emotional health by encouraging comparison, distraction, and disconnection from our real-life experiences. Stoics encourage us to live with intention and purpose, focusing on what is truly important and beneficial to our personal growth. The mindless use of social media runs counter to this principle, as it often leads us to spend our time on activities that do not add significant value to our lives. In addition, constant exposure to a stream of idealized images and messages can distort our perception of reality and ourselves, and lead us to feel dissatisfied with our own lives. To align our use of social media with Stoic principles, we can begin by thinking critically about how and why we use these platforms. Are we seeking useful information, maintaining meaningful relationships, or simply avoiding reality? Setting clear and conscious boundaries for our use of social media can help us avoid falling into mindless, passive consumption. This can include setting specific times to check these platforms, limiting notifications, or even taking regular breaks or digital detoxes. Another effective strategy is to focus on using social media in ways that enrich our lives, such as following educational or inspirational accounts, sharing content that reflects our true passions and interests, or using these platforms to connect and support each other on our personal journeys. By using social media in an intentional and mindful way, we not only adhere to the Stoic principles of living a life of purpose and authenticity, but we also improve our mental and emotional health. This approach allows us to enjoy the benefits of these platforms without letting them dominate or diminish our experience of real life. Ultimately, it's about finding a balance that allows us to connect and share in meaningful ways while maintaining a firm focus on our own lives and well-being. I hope this journey through Stoic principles has provided you with valuable insights and practical tools to simplify your life and focus on what really matters. Remember, the most powerful changes often begin with small steps and conscious choices. Thank you for your time and interest in exploring these transformative ideas. If you found this video helpful, I invite you to share it with those you feel could benefit from these principles. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content like this, and leave a comment below to let me know which of these 11 things you're ready to start eliminating from your life. We thank you for accompanying us on this journey of discovery and reflection and hope that you will continue to cultivate your inner garden with patience, perseverance, and presence. If you have found value in these tips and wish to delve even deeper into Stoic philosophy and its relevance in today's world, I have a special recommendation for you. Click on the following video that we have selected especially for you. You will find more tips, strategies, and reflections that will help you to apply Stoic principles in your daily life. See you there, dear Stoic.